Hi, Anna.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm so good. I missed you. We're sorry again, you guys. We're a little late this week. Yana had a big event in Sydney. How was your event?
I did. It was a women in media event. It was really
Cool.
exciting. Got to go and meet some big powerhouse women who are making film and television in this country, and one from the BBC making things all over the world. So that was really fun. And for Below Deck fans, I spent the day with my friend Hannah Ferrier, and we may or may not have been day drinking for most of the day, which
Nice.
wasn't on the schedule. I had brought my journal and I'd brought all of like these, like my tarot cards, and I was thinking I'm just going to have some like really zen time and
Wait,
just
you read
like,
tarot cards?
well, I when I say I read them, like I pull the cards and then I read the book to like see what it
Okay,
means.
that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like sometimes it's a fun way to like get a little bit of direction and clarity on things. And so I had this big kind of idea that I was just going to be like alone and just like take that time on the day off to kind of do that. But no, Hannah and I went for a walk, and then it turned into come back to mine and let's have some wine. And then next minute the day was gone. But it was super fun. Really
Oh, I
nice to get
love that.
away.
Oh, well, I've got
Yeah.
Judy with me. She's really excited for us to recap Real Housewives of Rhode Island today. But before we do that, did you watch the Summer House reunion part two?
Of course I did. My goodness me.
I was just
Look,
really happy that it had a lot to it because you know how part twos don't typically. But
yeah.
like, you know what I thought would be fun? Why don't we talk about like some of the things that we feel like are still unanswered that we want answered?
hmm
And I
I think
think,
there's
well, okay, you go first. What
you
what
go.
is
No, I was
something
gonna
that you're
say
just dying? Oh, I mean, I just
uh,
have so many. I feel like.
so many, and that's I think that I left the second episode feeling a little bit frustrated that not enough was getting answered.
Yeah,
There's
we're
there's a
passing
lot of
over a
jump.
lot.
Yeah, and there's no follow-up questions. It's like somebody gets emotional and has a reaction, and then it's a different question. And there are some things that like I don't know, like okay, it was powerful when Dara came out and said what she said, but then there's no follow-up. There's no like West just sits there kind of like nodding, you know, and
Do you think that
Amanda
was a
just sits.
tactic though? Like, because a lot of people are kind of talking about that online because it really seemed like, except for the moment where Kyle came at him about like the fuck you thing to Amanda and he kind of, was justifying himself there, everything else just sort of seemed like a nod. And like, even the moment when KJ came forward, I mean, what KJ said was very powerful about his father and how his father is a liar and it was so difficult on his mother and he was such a womanizer. He is literally like slamming zingers at West, if you think about it. He's like
Yeah.
calling you a liar. He's calling you like a bad person. He's saying
hmm
that you make women's lives difficult, right? And he's just
Yeah.
nodding. I think I think he told himself to do that or something, right? Like even though he
Yeah.
knows that we don't like that, right? He knows from
Yeah.
season 8, like you got to speak up. For some reason, he thinks that that's the tactic to take, and it's not the road,
Yeah.
man.
I know. And I wonder if it's actually his personality as well, because, even in the conversation that he had with Sierra in on Summer House when they went ahead of everybody on the boat day and they finally had their
Yeah.
conversation, she was saying a lot of things really clearly, really quite emotionally, and he was just kind of like sitting there, not making a lot of eye contact, doing that little pursed lip nod as well, and just
Oh,
like,
the
you
lips.
know,
The lip
you
thing
know,
that he's been doing this whole time. I don't know if he really is doing it this whole time or they're zooming in on it, but it really just seems
yeah.
like he's doing lip action, right? Ear stuff,
Yes.
lip
It
action.
was
What is this stuff? I I feel like I need to know why if he slept at a fan's house in February. Sorry. Something in my sink, I think just when it fell. If if that happened in February, then why did she go into the summer with a bad attitude, right? And I know
hmm
it's so easy to, I mean, we can say this about like every point in time, but I want to ask in so many different points in time, why didn't you leave him then, right? Or you're having this
hmm
January 1st incident where you're like, that's the moment I decided. Okay, Well, if that's the moment that you decided, then why did the statement have to come out on January the 19th? Why
Yeah.
did it have to come out within the hour? And sorry, this is like me and my like
Mm.
little investigator theories. The whole fact that she was with Wes on the 17th of January
Mm-hmm.
and probably sleeping over and not answering the phone or whatever. Oh, and what we don't also know is when they claim this started. Like Wes said, we looked at each other one night out and said, like, is there something going on here? But what day was that?
Yeah.
Even though it's going to be a lie. And when did Amanda start feeling something? Because it wasn't like the day he said it, right? Like for
Yeah.
her to continue to keep acting like she has no accountability here. And she literally just went from being friends with this guy to the day we started dating. And in between that, she was fully committed to Kyle is just not
Mm-hmm.
true.
100%. And there are things that happen in the show that they're not addressing. And I really hope to God they address this in the third episode. The things like Amanda's behavior throughout the season. You know, when Wes was hooking up with that girl and she acted like a total psycho
What
and went
was
and
that?
joined them and like said this weird stuff and then told him to look at her butt while she walked away. Like, in what world would a girl's girl do that at any point to the guy that your friend is into, especially when that entire season she's coaching Sierra through like the West situation? Why do you need West's attention if you have no interest in him? And in fact, you're defending your friend against him in this season. And then, the other things like there's this moment when Kyle had that explosion when he called her a fucking little bitch or whatever it
Yeah.
was in the dressing room.
Yes.
And she walks out and she goes, yeah, I'm a fucking little bitch. And for a split second, when she didn't even think the cameras saw her, Wes pops out. She's grinning, gives him a thumbs up. And then it quickly goes away and she acts like, oh, I'm just like, hey, hug. But what was that about?
Right.
That is not normal behavior. If you are genuinely distressed because your husband has called you a fucking little bitch, you don't leave that room grinning. To me, that reads like, yeah, we got him. Got him.
A hundred
Got him.
percent. And she did the same thing at that dinner, right? Where she's getting all smug and she's having everybody like,
Hmm.
do her dirty work. Amanda, at some point though, if your husband is so awful, we're not going to feel bad for you. You know what I mean? Like there has to be some
Hmm.
point where you need to take some responsibility. You made the decision to marry this guy. You made the decision to never forgive him for the cheating, which is your right. But then
Yeah.
why are you still with him? And I would love to talk to you from a therapist perspective about, I mean, now we have the number, right? Now we know it's 4 years since they've had sex. I was convinced it was seven. I still kind of am. But let's say four. That means you haven't
Yeah.
had sex since you got married. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How was there even a moment in that 4 years that you guys thought this relationship was going well? And not that everything is about sex. Absolutely not. And when a marriage is dying, that would make sense that you haven't had sex in like the last year, let's say. But like
Mm.
you didn't have sex for your entire marriage.
Yeah.
Take some accountability for the fact that this marriage was not good on both ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't keep saying you were fully invested in this
No.
relationship if you're not making any attempts to, work on that. They should have been in therapy from, if it's months and months and nothing's happening, it's as you say, it's not that sex is everything, but there's an intimacy issue, which Carl has called out. He's just a friend at that point, or in all honesty, he's an enemy because they just seem to be so fractured for so long.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it addressed in the first year of their marriage, or at worst, the second year of their marriage? And why weren't they heavily in therapy to work out, should we be together or not? That is the
Yeah.
first question that would have needed to be asked by their therapist. And then if the answer is, well, we want to be together, it's like, well, then we work towards getting you back together. And you start doing intimacy exercises and you start, really investing time and into the connection of the relationship. And whether they were doing that and we don't know about it, it doesn't sound like it because it sounds
No,
like
I
the
don't
only
think
time
so.
they spoke to each other was when they were filming.
I know.
So it just makes no sense. The only thing it can be is that they felt like they were some sort of power couple of Bravo, and Amanda's self-esteem means that, if she stepped away from that, would she still be on the show? Would she still be liked? And the only thing that maybe started to change things was seeing Paige and Craig break up.
Hmm.
and then see Paige kind of go on to this huge, amazing life. And maybe that gave her some little boost of confidence that maybe there could be life after Kyle in the Bravo sense. Because it sounds like that is the only thing, the fame and the show of it all. Because what else are you holding on to a 4-year marriage for that's
I
so
never,
miserable?
I always say I'm like a regular person, and so I never think that people actually think that way. I would
Mm,
never think that someone would get married for that reason or make real life decisions for TV reasons. But like now I'm just really confused. And I bet you $1 million every time he approached her to have sex, she was like, I'll have sex with you once we go a day without a rumor or something like that. Right. I bet she's
yes.
constantly throwing those rumors back in his face. And you know what? Like, obviously, Kyle is culpable, right? Like, we cannot say that he was a good husband. He was not a good husband. But she just makes herself like this perpetual victim, which we
Yes.
always were happy to let her be. It sort of felt right. But to not take any accountability in your marriage whatsoever, like anytime that they would get in a legitimate fight, she would always just try to find a way to be like, and it's like,
Mhm.
well, you cheated on me in season 4. It's like, okay, but we're getting in a fight now about this. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm also noticing that she is kind of a liar, right? Like, not just about this stuff, but it sounds like about a bunch of other stuff, right? Like even um apparently like in the last reunion where she's like, I'm ready to have kids with someone who's ready to have kids with me, and she wasn't being serious there. She was trying to like put him down for that. Oh, and the whole thing that came up in this episode about him starting a DJ career to spite her, which is not true. And like looking back on all of that, I remember him getting so heated and he said fuck you in those moments too. But now knowing how lazy she is, he did say this at the time, but I didn't take it as fruitfully. He said, like, I'm going to have to do all the work. And it's
Yeah.
true. She's just like, I want to start a swimsuit line. Kyle, Kyle,
Yes.
Kyle. You know what I mean? And he doesn't have time to start a
Totally.
swimsuit line. And that's what this is, So
Totally.
he's like, well, if you're going to fucking do that, then I'm going to go live my dream of being a DJ. If we're just living
Yes.
dreams, I'm going to go do that.
Yes.
And the way that
And was
the
it really
audience
her
is shifted,
dream? Oh, yeah.
I don't know what her
I
dream. I
mean,
don't think she's had a dream.
no, and she just stuck her name on a company that already
I know.
exists. It's basically a collab, She does not have a swimsuit line. She's not a designer. She has not put in all of the time and the effort and the money and the passion and the self-belief that needs to go into an actual brand. She's
I
just,
know.
South Moon X Amanda Batula. Like it's really that's all it is. And
I
you
know.
said before that you're not one of those people that would imagine saying something like that in terms of like doing things for camera. But when Amanda said she decided on that day that they were going to put out the statement, the first thing she did was ring Bravo PR. So the
Yeah,
minute she decided she was going
that's a
to
good point.
separate from Kyle, she rings Bravo PR. That should be the fifth or sixth phone call. You think you ring your parents, you probably ring your friends, you probably let Kyle ring his family,
But
and
why the
then when you're
19th?
ready, yeah, why
Like,
the 19th and why the urgency to post? What was that urgency about?
because she
Was
said,
it that
okay, I
they'd
want to
done some
wait
stuff in
till,
public,
right.
she and West, and she was worried pictures were going to come out?
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, if you were so over this as of January 1st and you're waiting for Bravo to reopen, okay, let's look at the calendar. Like, let's be real about how a real company works. Okay. So companies are closed on January the 1st, which was a Thursday. So everybody was back to work by the 5th, Monday the 5th.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's no reason why, so
Yes.
you didn't call them that day, probably because you're lazy. But also,
Yes.
like, it just doesn't really make sense to me. Sorry, just throwing Judy over.
How undignified. Judy, your mother just exposed you to the world.
It's okay. It's just a little one. But yeah, like none of those dates make sense. If you were
Yeah.
so like down to do it immediately, then you would have called them at 9 a.m. on the 5th of January, and the
Hmm.
statement would have gone out, because I think the show aired on February the 3rd. So I remember the statement came out like shortly before. But yeah, if you were that gung ho to do it, it would have been the 5th and it would have come out like by end
Yeah.
of day. And like the fact that they never had a real conversation about it either. I mean, we're all going to see this play out on In the City, obviously, but I think we're not going to see much. I mean, even the scene we saw this week, it was October 22nd. She was just moving out. Um, And then by BravoCon, which was what, like 3 weeks later, they're not together. And
Hmm.
within a couple of months, they've split. So like
Yeah.
what happened in that time, right? And I don't think
Yeah.
anything because from what it sounds like with Kyle, he's like, well, I didn't even know this was happening, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's you know what I think is fascinating, the way the internet will just sort of like switch their like morality clause for a minute. They'll be like, well, it's like abuse to not have sex with your husband. So of course he cheated. It's abuse. Like my God.
I mean, it's not abuse. No one has to have sex with their
And why didn't
husband.
he leave too? Like I have to put some accountability on him
Yeah.
too. Like why was he in this marriage for so long when he wasn't having his needs met, right? I mean,
Yeah. You know,
it's wild.
to me, it feels like he actually really loved her and felt protective of her. There's a father-daughter kind of quality there
There
in their
is, yeah.
relationship. And she is, it sounds like, and we've talked about this before, she went from being Frank Batula's little precious angel to Kyle Cook's side piece to little precious angel. And she's just had a man take care of everything for her entire adult life. So I can see why she didn't make any moves. Pretty cushy. They had a great apartment in New York. Kyle was busy. He's a, super entrepreneur. He always has been from when we met him on the first day, season one. He was, trying to get businesses and apps off the ground. So he's a really hardworking man, and she was kind of just left to her own devices, particularly in the last like 5 years or so, when she's just
Yeah.
been kind of vaguely an influencer and a Bravo person, and that's kind of it. So, I mean, there's so much that's not lining up, and I just like I hate that we're not getting people pushing back more on the specifics of things. You know, they're saying, yeah, she separated from Kyle officially on the 19th of January. And then 2 months later, she's making a statement with West, but they hadn't slept together. So you're telling me in just that short window of time, with just enough time to start flirting with each other and having an interest in each other for the very first time, and nothing had happened. What, I mean, you just don't put out a statement like that unless there is something significant going on. We know that. Like, no one is dumb. And I think that, yeah, they need to really bring up more about what was going on. I think Kyle's reactions subconsciously or consciously throughout the season came from feeling completely isolated and left out. And he could see like she was with West all the time and with everyone else all the time. And so of course he was losing it and
Yeah.
he didn't handle it well and he didn't
No.
express himself well. And we can all agree on that. But there was so much going on. There was an undercurrent of shit going on, and she needs to really be honest about that. But she can't because then she's no longer the victim. And that is just, I mean,
No.
even in this reunion,
The
you know,
smirks, the faces she's making the entire
yes,
time is basically her also not taking accountability. It's being like, well,
yes,
that's ridiculous. Well, of course, Kyle is like this. But it almost gives like a vitriol towards Sierra with the faces that she's giving.
yes,
It's how can you not take any, so, like, even if you didn't cheat on Kyle, which we don't care about, you did betray Sierra and you haven't really
yes,
said anything in that regard. I mean, the way that
exactly.
you keep coming at her and rolling your eyes at her shows that you are not sorry. Like,
Yeah,
how did you think that you were going to come out of this? Like, it's just, I don't know.
totally. And to sit there and like, it makes watching in the city really difficult because
Mhm.
I cannot believe a word coming out of her mouth. She is acting so badly. It is so like not her personality. She's like boring and quiet. That's really who she is. She's trying so hard to be the star of the show. She's actually got some confidence because West and she clearly had something going on.
Yeah.
And, she's like, Sierra and West are my best friends,
But how
and
cool was that of production to like
which,
be like, okay,
oh,
this is like, let's rewind or let's
yeah,
fast forward. This is a new confessional. It's May 5th, and let's talk about it like it's May 5th. Yeah,
yes,
that was
totally. And
epic
even,
because we have been asking for dates on those confessionals forever because we know that they're filmed afterwards. But like when events like this happen, we need the dates, we need the timeline, even though you're supposed to in the confessional be talking about how you felt in that moment, it just feels like moot sometimes when
Yeah,
like, we're so past that. Like, let's talk about something else.
totally.
And like I keep talking about this and I still don't know how valid it is, but like I'll keep throwing it out there. Chicken Fry, Brianna Chicken Fry said
Yes.
that Wes told her at the Super Bowl, which is February the 8th, that he and Amanda were a thing. So
Hmm.
so January 19th to February 8th. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Seriously. Seriously. It is wild that they think we're going to believe it.
The
And
Wild
so I
Wild
think
West.
those are the things, literally, those are the things I think, if they could come out and be totally honest, if they came out and said, you know what, feelings started a year ago for sure, and it was wrong and we can't do anything about it now, but we're sorry. Everyone would be like, okay, that was
Yeah,
shit, but
it's the
like,
continued dishonesty.
okay. Yes, and the like you were saying, it's like her complete denial about it all is so infuriating. Like just own some of it. Don't
Like,
sit there
no,
saying,
we were just friends up until the day that we kissed. Like, yeah, right. Like, give
"Yes,
us something
as
more. Like, that's so
if."
unrealistic.
Exactly, exactly. And then, West is just sitting there going like, "Okay, I'm just going along with whatever she says." Like, okay,
And that was
you
interesting
know?
later on when he said, like, oh, do you want me to talk more? Which made me question whether they had a conversation where she said, like, don't talk more, which I'd be
Yeah.
surprised at. But, like, yeah, it sort of seems that way. And did you think it was manipulative when he said, like, you should try to cry on stage more or
I
something? Like, he
wasn't
didn't say it exactly
sure.
like that. He was like,
Yeah.
if you could, if you want to cry, you can cry on stage. He said that more so, but
Yeah.
a lot of people are feeling like it was manipulative to be like, go cry on stage, like, look sadder,
Maybe. Yeah, I
maybe.
didn't look in the moment. I didn't take it like that. It was, to me, it felt like a fumbled support moment. Like, it's okay. You don't have to hold it together. Um, but, just every scene, even backstage with her. And I heard somewhere online that actually her break was longer than an hour. She was
Okay,
in that room.
so Andy said 20 minutes, and then Lindsay commented on Threads, actually, it was an hour. And so I'm like, Lindsay, shut up. Like obviously Andy is saying what he's saying, but now that I think about it, like maybe they broke for like a meal, right? And then it would have been
Mm,
like, for that. Because when they
yeah.
came back from break, they still had two more segments and she wasn't there. You know what I mean? So she
Yeah.
was gone for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I wonder. I was gonna say why did they allow it, but at the same time, like Andy has gotten real flack before, like from people that have tried to sue him over like him being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
come back." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I guess maybe he didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, come on, let's do some of these other filler scenes that we don't actually
Yeah.
care that much about. Like, we get that out of the way. Jesse, how's your music career? Great. Okay, moving on.
How's Sabrina Bell? Even
Yeah, Sabrina Bell. Can I just
such a
say something
character.
about Ben as an Australian? I
Oh yeah, I
think a lot
forgot.
of, yeah, I think a lot of Americans are not quite getting him.
Okay,
And
I don't get him. I
people,
don't like him.
okay, well, not that I think you're an American, but, you
Oh
know,
right, I forgot that I'm
yeah,
not.
yeah, no,
No, but tell me how you feel about him because maybe we are getting the wrong impression from him culturally, and we're
yeah.
not we're not understanding him.
Culturally, to me, he is like a pretty typical Aussie guy,
Okay.
And the way that he was talking to Sabrina in the room about like, can you just hurry up? Like, can you imagine one day if we've got kids and we got to like get them to school? To me, that was just a bit of like banter. Honestly,
Okay.
I did not
To me,
take
it was
that.
like very father-daughter like
Yeah,
Sabrina
to me, it was
Bell,
just like,
put your
come on,
backpack
hurry
on.
up, let's go, come on, And she probably is like, she would be quite annoying at times, you can imagine. She's very off with the fairies. And so she's like, wait, I've got to choose which choker to put on. Hold on. And like, no, hang on, which pirate outfit am I wearing today? Like, I think she's a very sweet, lovely thing. Um, and I think it would just be like, oh, come on. Maybe she's got ADHD and she's just like a bit all over the place. So he's just trying to like, come on, come on, come on. I didn't take that as bad. And the way that he talks, I think the way that he confronted Bailey, um, I also didn't find aggressive. I
No.
think, no, I think I could understand where he was coming from, particularly because I think he was protecting his relationship with Sabrina, and that was
The
the
one that he was in
unsaid
the entire
thing.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or whether he'd like taken a pause from her, but still, was talking to her and like officially was single, but really it was still continuing behind the
Yeah.
scenes. And so I think he was more worried about that than anything else. Like, I don't want to be seen to be, trying to hook up with other people, especially. And there probably was a big flirtation with Amanda in Italy. And
Well, did you see
in the
what he said
light of
online about that?
that, there's no group chat and
Yeah,
there's
and that
another,
she exaggerated, and that it's going to come up at the
yeah,
reunion. So it didn't come up at this part. I wonder if it'll come
yeah,
up in the third part. But again, another lie, right? Like,
yes,
I was just like, whoa, you made that a big thing. You made it like there is
yeah,
definitely a group chat. Like you made an entire story. And if there's literally
yeah,
no group chat, then you made up an entire story. Like,
totally.
oh my God.
Totally. And maybe
Okay,
there's
I see what you're saying.
maybe yeah, so like I feel like, it's not like the way that Kyle was reacting, for example. I can comfortably say that was aggressive at the
Yeah.
table, even though I understand the reasons why. Like I completely understand why Kyle lost it at the table at that final
Well, two things can be
night.
true.
Yeah, his reaction was not good, but I understand where it came from. But I don't feel like Ben was being aggressive. I feel like he was quite calmly explaining to her and strongly. And I think she was really wounded by it because she had a crush on him. And maybe that's,
For
like it
me,
hurts more when it's the guy
yeah,
you've got your eye on who's coming
for
and
sure.
reprimanding you, you
For
know?
me, it wasn't that he came at her about it. Like, I think he had every right to speak to her about it. But once she said, like, yeah, I'm sorry, it was the not letting it go and just kind of
Mm,
keeping on. And then, like, him almost wanting to know, like, well, where did this stem from? And then he did the same thing with Amanda. And it's like, can't you just accept an apology? Like, why do you need to know the root cause of everything? Not everything has to be like a whole conspiracy theory. Like, maybe they
yeah,
just made a mistake in something they said. You don't need to be like, well, why? Why? I don't know why, but I'm
yeah,
sorry. Like it's done, right? So that part is what felt aggressive to me. But thinking about all the things you've added to this, right? Considering the fact that he probably was in a relationship with Sabrina, it's probably why he was acting that way, right? And yeah, in
yeah,
comparison to Kyle, is it even comparable? No, right? Like there's
yeah,
definitely an aggression in Kyle that we, for some reason, we find endearing and fun. And we probably don't find it as much with Ben because we don't know him yet, right?
yeah,
But at the same time, I think she has every right to feel the way that she feels. And, if he comes back, we'll see what we see, right? But like,
yeah,
we always have to remember we only got these little snippets of these people's lives,
true.
especially with Ben. We got very little from him. And
Yeah.
so if that's all you see, maybe, you have an opinion from
Yeah.
him from what you see. But at the same time, yeah, we always have
Well,
to remember
see,
that we don't know these people.
no, we don't, but I know him a little bit more because I watched him
Yes.
on The Australian Bachelor.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, and he's exactly like we see him. He really struggles with talking his emotions out, and that
Perfect for
was
The
his,
Bachelor. Why do
yeah,
they hire people that like
I
like
know.
are
That
not
was
going
his
to make this work out?
Yeah, that was his big struggle, and he talked about that on camera. That like that was the part he was finding really difficult, and that was his big challenge, and he was trying to grow with it,
Yeah.
and do his best, but it was really hard for him. And I also watched him on his first reality show, which was about kind of models and young people trying to make it in New York. I can't
I
remember
didn't
what it
know he
was
was in another
called.
reality show. Oh my gosh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Okay.
years ago, with some other models, and a girl, trying to work in a gallery, and it was great. Like I loved it. And he was again exactly the same person. So to me, he just is who he is, and he's
Yeah.
like just a kind of stoic Aussie bloke. And not every Australian guy is like him, but there
Yeah.
are a lot of Australian guys like him, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. All right. Well, do you want to move on to the Real Housewives of Rhode Island?
Yes.
Let's do
Wow.
it.
What an episode.
What an episode. I feel like the tides are changing on Liz. I feel like the
Mm,
audience is like, Liz is doing too much. We're a little afraid of Liz.
mm,
Yeah, Liz, started off this episode from the last where we got this big fight with her and Alicia over the homeless, not toothless, or whatever you want to call it. And like, they're at Rich's show because he's, going to be performing, which I still think is so adorable. I just think him doing like these little show tunes, like, if that was my man, I would be like clapping and singing and
I
stomping along. Like I
know,
just think it's
so
adorable. It's
cute.
so innocent in a way. And I think it was
Yeah.
cute that all the ladies came, but like Alicia's crying because
Yeah.
she's still upset about this. So I guess there's two things. There's the fact that Liz is coming so hard about Alicia not being homeless and being really aggressive with it, with pretty much anyone involved. But then there's also whether Joe Ellen is being, from what, tell me how you take it, but I feel like what Liz is saying without saying it is she's being performative and being
Mm,
two-faced, right? She's doing two things. She's
yeah.
acting, she won't take a side and she's being this mediator, but at the same time, like it just feels like because when she was making fun of her and being like, oh, she was just
Yeah.
acting like, don't do that because I feel like you're being fake. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's start with Liz, I guess. Like, what do you think's going on?
Yeah. I felt the same thing. Like if she could break the fourth wall, she would be saying, "Don't do this bullshit for the cameras. Like stop it." So it felt like I think whether Liz was totally conscious or not about this, that she was feeling like this was a TV kind of gang up. Like we're just going to keep planting and niggling so that you look like the bad guy. And I think she's very sensitive about coming off as the bad guy, but
Yeah,
unfortunately then acts like the bad guy. And she's doing a menopause gummy with Dolores.
right.
She talks about having had a menopause moment when she had the fight with Kelsey. How much of it is hormones? Genuinely, because rage and menopause go hand in hand. And maybe once she was activated, like she couldn't help the reaction. But like she did pull Joe Ellen's hair and she did push her chair away. And she was, you know, I will give her this. I think she quietly tried to stop it a few times at the table. She's like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to talk to you. Just leave
right.
me alone. And Joellen kind of kept going. Why did Joellen go out with a cigarette to have a cigarette with her? You know, why?
I
She's trying to be,
I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, because from what we're seeing from Joelle, and she's like, no, I love her. She's one of my best friends.
yeah.
It was really reminding me of like the later seasons of Vanderpump Rules where they didn't like Kristen anymore. And Kristen would just keep going up to Katie and Stassi at events and being like,
Yes.
I know we've been going through things. And they're like, Kristen, things haven't been good in a while. We are not best friends. We are not like anything
Yes.
right now. Like, what do they call themselves? Like the Witches of
The
WeHo,
witches of
RIP.
WeHo.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it sort of felt like that. And I totally can understand where Joellen is coming from to be like, okay, I feel embarrassed, especially with the way that Liz is being
Yeah.
like, we're not best friends. Like, she's not being
Yes.
kind about it, right? She's just
Yeah.
like, but like, there was a part, and even though this is the end, but it's all like connected, like when Joellen and Liz went out at the end to try to have like a talk about this whole thing, Liz says two different things. Even though she's saying that Joellen talks out of two sides of her mouth, she also what? She's like, it wasn't that you weren't taking my side, but then she proceeds to explain the ways that Joellen didn't take her side, right?
Yes.
And then she goes, but you were acting more like you understood where she was coming from, which I also understand. Okay, so what's the
Yes.
problem? That she didn't take your
Yes.
side. That's what it was. She didn't like that she
Yeah.
was in the middle. She
Yeah.
didn't like that.
Yeah.
Like, she's saying, I didn't like you taking the role as the mediator, but what she actually didn't like was that she was not taking her side and she was playing the middle, which I think is fine
Yeah.
to do on the show, right? Like, well, I guess you are
Yeah.
supposed to take a side, but like on something like this, like, why can't we just calm down both parties and why can't you both be right in
Yeah,
a
and you have
way?
to also, I mean, I guess as Joellen pointed out, they all three have got childhood trauma that, nobody needs to compare which is worse. They've all had a tough time. And maybe that was part of it because Joellen's trying to say, look, her feelings are valid, like, because she kind of gets it from that emotional place. But before she can even finish the sentence with, and we all do. And that's all I was trying to say.
Right.
Liz is reacting and reacting and reacting. And so, like, had Joellen come at it from a different angle, like if she'd said, Liz is not trying to Liz has is trying to protect your family and maybe she's coming at it in the wrong way, but she's coming from a good place. If she'd started with that, maybe Liz would have been more open to the middle place because
Well, here's
sounded like
why.
she felt like the character attack on her, you
Yes.
know?
And that is what Joe Ellen says, that she sort of takes everything as an attack, which is interesting because Lindsay Hubbard is also that way. She sees
Mm,
everyone that's trying to have a conversation with her as someone that's trying to take her down. And that's like not necessarily
yeah.
the situation. But that being said, think about how, like, without Joellen, heated Liz was getting on this topic. Like, why? She keeps trying
Yeah.
to frame it as like, I'm trying to help your family, and your family wouldn't want to hear this about you. But you and I talked about this last week. I didn't really get the vibe, and neither did you, from Alicia's family, that they would have been upset about it. But what did you think about when they actually were having a sit down? So she's having a sit down with like her whole family, Alicia is, for like her daughter's
Yeah.
dance recital or something like that. And
Yeah.
the way she frames it is, I was telling everyone the way I was brought up, and my father wasn't around, and I was left for homeless. And they were all like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like there's a difference between saying I was left for dead and I was left
Yeah.
dead, right?
Yes.
Left for dead means
Completely.
you are still alive, but dead is
Yes.
dead, right? So when you said homeless, if you think about it that way, left for
Yes.
homeless, that means he like basically left you with nothing,
Yes.
basically. But homeless means he left you without a home, right? So I,
Yeah.
I do agree with the terminology issue,
Yes.
but I would never get this upset about it.
No, exactly. And I felt exactly, I thought that was really like, I noticed that too at the dinner. And then, of course, her family was completely supportive. Like, what? Now I'm getting upset. Now she's got a
Right.
problem with me. He did take away the home. But yeah, no one was on the streets. And I don't know why Liz is getting so obsessed with this. Of all the people on the cast, we know Alicia, struggles with her words.
Right. So
She's
just
not
see it as
the
a
most
silly Alicia
articulate.
thing.
Yes, like just loosely say, listen, you would never have been on the streets. You've got a big, beautiful family. And Alicia would have gone, you're right. But, I was devastated because he took away my beautiful bedroom and my childhood home. And we
And
could leave
she's
it at
also,
that.
yeah, she's also implying that like, when she says like, you have this big beautiful family, would have never have allowed that. Was the father thinking about all of those things when he left the family? Was he like, they'll be fine. They'll move in with the grandmother. I don't need to worry about it,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's assume he wasn't, right? Because I think that's what was going on here. He wasn't really thinking about his family and his daughter. They
Mm.
never spoke again, right? So, like, if he was that concerned about his daughter, he'd be like, okay, wife, I'm leaving you, but here's the situation. You're going to have this house, or I'm going to have you guys live in here. Here's what we're going to do. But that's not what happened. He
Yeah.
left them for homeless because
Yeah.
he didn't make sure that they were taken care of, right? And
Yeah.
so, unless he really in his mind sat there and thought, she got a big, beautiful family. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll make
I'm
that
taking the
assumption. You know what I
house.
mean?
Yeah. But I think also psychologically, I can't remember exactly what Joellen said, but you sort of touched on it before. It was something about Liz's kind of like, to me, I took it as there's this really deep rooted sense of abandonment with her. And she's, her mum died when she was 12 years old or something
Right.
terrible. And clearly that stays with you in ways that are sort of intangible for so long. And I wonder how much of that is that, that big defense mechanism that she has. Like if you're going to say something, I'm immediately protecting myself. There's
Yeah.
no room to even like stop and listen because I am like she can't even see what she's doing. Like to even then go and try to have the sit down with Joellen to hash it out. She's got the fake smile. She's fully in defense mode and she's not really ready to
It's
have
scary.
it is scary. It is scary.
I
And I
would
think
never sit
Joellen,
down with her. I would be like, I need a
no.
bodyguard. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think Joellen was really brave and she handled it real like she was tough.
Yeah.
She didn't back down. She tried to be kind with it. And I can understand, okay, maybe Liz is frustrated again because it feels like, oh, here we go. Now Joellen's like the soft and little victim, but I know she's a total bitch in real
Yeah.
life. Like, why is she acting like this? Like,
Yeah.
I get that, but Liz has got to find a different way of communicating all of that because it's just translating as a
Not
little
good.
bit scary. No. And her retelling with Dolores, every time I see Dolores, I'm like, oh, really? Oh, I forgot you were there. Like,
It didn't have the
uh,
effect they thought it would. Like I liked seeing her
no.
initially, but now I'm just like, oh yeah, it just sort of seems like another friend you have in your circle. It doesn't need to be Dolores. It could be anyone in a
No.
sense. So yeah, that's kind of falling. And then the whole Ashley
Mm.
storyline is just the same thing again with like, what are we gonna do about Audrey's? But that being said, I have heard online that Audrey's is doing amazing. So, maybe it really made sense for them to do the show. Obviously now Audrey's becomes like a tourist attraction, right? Like any
Yes.
other housewife destination. And so now automatically it becomes like a whole thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad for them, right? Like if they've been found a
Yeah.
way to make this lucrative, especially with doing the show, like all the power to them. But they're gonna need to figure out something else to talk about next year.
Yes. I mean, I think not to be like totally mean, they really need someone to come in and just like do it all up. Like
Yeah,
it just looks like a cafe, a sort of very like average cafe, and they're trying to make it a lounge and offer cocktails. Like I wouldn't want to go there to have cocktails. But if you've
yeah,
got the space and if they did it up and made it like a sexy vibe in there, you know, yes, you'll make more money on cocktails. If you've got the liquor license, why wouldn't
yeah.
you? You know, do something else with the inside. Like it just looked like such a basic cafe. Do you know what I
Or
mean?
maybe they need like management to help, or
Yeah.
like someone to help you figure out like what would make this a moneymaker. But yeah,
Yeah.
Housewives will do it. I also thought the scene with Billy and Kelsey was really interesting. Is that her name?
Mm.
I kept looking at her. I'm like, is her
Yeah.
name Kelsey? Okay. So I'm still so confused about their relationship because we don't know for real when it started, but like I understand why he doesn't want Kelsey to be taking any money from the ex, but then she acts as though, well, who's going to pay my bills, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
why can't you work, right? Like health
Yeah.
insurance. Okay, health insurance, she explained, is probably really expensive for her because she had this brain tumor and she has to get MRIs every couple of years. But like other things, like car insurance, right? Like these aren't like crazy expensive things. They're like a
Yeah.
couple $100s. Like,
Yeah.
you can get like a basic job, or like you must be bringing in some money, or you said that you're trying to. So, like, why does it always have to be on somebody else to be taking
Mm-hmm.
care of you? And this whole thing where he allegedly stayed celibate for a year, I don't know if that's true, like a la Kyle Cook. Like, I really doubt that. Like,
Yeah.
what is this? And like, then he says, like, you can tell he's a really quiet guy, so you don't get a lot out of him. But then he's like, you put me through hell forever. And like, you have, right? Like,
Yeah.
if this has truly been going the way they said, he has just been hanging around on the sidelines, being her sometimes boyfriend. Like, that's so
Yes.
awful, right? And
I
like, but then he's
know.
not getting sex either. Like, wait, what?
Yes.
From anyone?
I know. Or was he getting sex from her, but he had to be celibate, meaning like couldn't hook up with anybody else?
But he wasn't seeing her all the time, right? Because like 6 months of
Mm,
this is just weird. Like, I think we
I
need more details,
know.
but regardless, I feel for this guy because, well, I mean, he could leave, right? He doesn't need to be a part of this, but like,
Yeah.
this is a really weird thing to involve yourself in. And I don't think she's over the ex because she's still like talking about him constantly. And at the end, she's just like, well, it would be silly for me to like not accept the gift. And it's like,
Yeah.
but I thought you
Do you know
wanted the
what?
separation. You
Well, do you
wanted to
know what
cut those ties.
yeah, well, she wants the money, you know,
Yes.
because
But like,
and I think this is a fascinating personality. And there are plenty of women out there. I don't personally know them, but I know they exist that have no problem just being completely upfront about needing men to pay for them. And that's their whole thing. And I know there are sugar babies who like legitimately make a career out of it. But that feels different. That's like an upfront transaction. It's a job.
yeah,
You know, you're being clear about it. You know,
right.
someone
Fair
like
enough.
Kelsey is doing the same thing, but kind of not saying it's a job. So she's like, you know, yeah, the expectation that a man is going to pay for all your things and have no shame about that, I find really interesting. And, you know, I think this timeline is important for all of this to make sense. So the fact that she's saying she was kind of seeing Billy, but he was celibate while he was waiting, you know, I wonder if a lot of this is just kind of keeping the waters a little bit murky, just in case people question the timeline of the boyfriend, because, you know, when did they really break up and how long were they really together? I think all of that's a little bit blurry intentionally.
That makes a lot of sense. I do wonder though what she's going to say about that come reunion time because it feels pretty confirmed at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just going to take away any ounce of credibility she had. And I'm sorry, like kind of person you're explaining to me is not the kind of person that like I would want to be friends with or care to watch. Like I find an ickiness about it. Like again, I keep saying this, I feel like you try to relate to your characters. I related to her a bit at the beginning where she's like, I want to do this on my own. She essentially is just a woman who wants men to pay for her. And has admitted she doesn't want to work, and I just don't have a ton of respect for that, right? Like then she's
Yeah.
starting fake fights with Rosie over nothing. And if you have also on top of that been lying about your entire storyline, which was interesting, if it's not even true
Yeah.
right now, like it's cool that it
Yeah.
was true at some point. And we talked about they may have been together at the time that there was the pitch for this show.
Yeah.
But then, like, talk about what you've been doing since then. I've been broken up with my ex for 2 years and I've been trying to, like, make it on my own and he still pays for this. But then I've got this other boyfriend. Like,
Yeah.
be honest about it. Cause now, like,
That's still
she's a cool
interesting.
character. But, like, as a complete liar, it just feels like so disingenuous. And I can't, like, I don't feel like anyone's gonna, like, love her as a character. We're not, like, rooting for you. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And she could have just been upfront about it. She could have been, like, well, when I first started hanging out with this friend group, as they
Yeah.
say, meaning filming, um, I did have this boyfriend, and now, he's letting me just stay in the house a little bit here and there, and he's still paying for things. And we would have been like, wow, okay, this is unusual. Tell me more, And then I've got this other boyfriend who I've known forever, and he comes out with me, but I'm not fully committing to him because, in brackets, I'm not sure he's got enough money to support my
Right.
lifestyle. And then again, we're like, wow, okay, interesting. This is not okay. Tell me more. And we would have been like, not necessarily rooting for her, but like, okay, this is a different personality, someone that's like being upfront about the
Yeah.
money and you know. So, yeah, I mean, I will be interested to see what happens at the reunion because I
Yeah.
do like her. And I was like, the slam pig walking in with the sash, like,
That was funny.
she's funny and she doesn't care. And I think that's a good character to have. She's to borrow a phrase from Austin Kroll, but she lives out loud. We are seeing her thoughts and feelings publicly where Liz
Who did
is
he say that
hiding
about?
them.
Sally?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, where did he say that?
She lives her life out loud because Austin lives so much of it in the shadows.
Right.
So, um, sorry everyone to give you a bit of PTSD. Sally's coming back soon.
Well, we just heard
Um,
about her on I was surprised because we did hear about a rumor about Kyle and Sally kissing, Kyle Cook from Summer House,
yes.
but I thought that wasn't true, but basically that was also confirmed on the reunion. But yeah, I mean, whatever. But you still have Amanda making like a little grimace at that. She was like, "Ah, yeah, it was the day before the reunion. Again, you were
Yeah.
broken up. What do you care?" Right?
Yes.
Like, you
And
know?
totally. And there she is in the mix again with West Wilson as well. And that comes out on the Southern Charm reunion. Like
Yeah.
this girl, when Austin said, and we all smashed him for it, when he said that like
No,
her
don't say
Bravo list was long,
it.
I think we I think he was right. The
I want
Bravo
to
list is
support women. Women's rights and wrongs. I support women's rights and
yes.
wrongs. Okay.
She has
Sally, I
every
support
right
your rights
to
and wrongs.
she has every right to hook up with as many Bravo celebrities as she wants. But it's just a
Yes.
fact. There are a lot of Bravo people on the list, and that's fine. If I was a young single girl and I was suddenly in the Bravo world, I'd probably have a good time too. You know?
I
No
would. To
shade.
me, it's like shitting where you eat because you're gonna have to see them constantly, right? So if you get in like a weird situation with one of them and then you constantly have to be in rooms with them, like that could get kind
True.
of weird. And like you don't want to end up in situations. I mean, she's cool, right? Like she's always chill with everybody, but like if you got into like let's say like serious relationships with like a lot of Bravo lebs, then you're like, well, I can't be in the room with this person or this person or this person. It could get a little murky.
She doesn't strike me as the
No,
kind of person that has the foresight or the, you know, anxiety about any of that stuff because
no
everyone's an
anxiety.
opportunity.
Exactly. All right. Well, Yana, today was so much fun. I'm glad we got to talk about Rory and Summer House. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, and
Too.
then I'll do the same.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're loving all your feedback. It is really fun to engage with you online. You can find me on Instagram at jana.firestone. That's JANA.firestone. On YouTube at Pop Therapy Podcast, or you can listen to this and all my other episodes at Pop Therapy on your favorite podcast app.
And you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at the Bravo Investigator, which is the same as my YouTube channel and Facebook page. And don't forget, guys, we are doing this every single week until the end of RHORI, okay? So we are coming at you every Tuesday, sometimes Thursday, and making sure that you get your entire RHORI breakdown. So we love you guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to Pop Therapy with Jana Firestone.
And the Bravo Investigator podcast with Dana Regan.
Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at the Bravo Investigator, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
And you can find me at Jana Firestone. That's JANA Firestone on Instagram, and the Pop Therapy podcast on YouTube, TikTok, all the things.
You can see us collaborating every single week.
Come and listen, join the party, and don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review if you've enjoyed this episode, and join the conversation online. We would love to hear your thoughts.